Can the Miami Hurricanes rushing attack be the strength of the offense in 2025? Let's break it down here on Locked On Canes.
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I am Alex Dono, University of Miami alumnus, co-host of Locked On ACC, and writer for Canes County at Rivals. And thank you so much to the everydayers for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. On this loaded Truth Teller Tuesday episode, we're going to talk championship memories from the University of Miami, on how Miami can build on a 10-3 season and hopefully accomplish more of their goals next year. We're going to talk about Miami's running back room, and when you figure out who our special guest is, you will understand why. Well, we have two special guests today because on a Tuesday, we bring in the truth teller, Bruce Warner. And Bruce, we got the towels on, which might be a clue.
Yeah, it might be a clue. Well, last week we had one of the nicest former players ever. Now he's in the College Hall of Fame. This week I bring in a former coach friend of mine who's on vacation, and I call him on Sunday. I said, "Would you do the show Tuesday?" He says, "Yeah, I'll do it." Just another nice guy, although a great legend. You keep saying a myth, a legend. He's no myth. He's real. He's a real legend. So my pleasure to announce our guest today, former coach, the running backs, Don Soldinger. Look at the background for this guy. Look at him. He's not in Florida. Where are you, buddy?
Oh, I'm struggling here in Hilton Head. It's rough being on this lake, and we're in a nice house, beautiful house with my brother-in-laws and sister-in-laws and my wife's sisters. It's really cool. We do it every year. We go away every year. So I'm having a good time.
All right. So every year while you're there, we'll interrupt you and we'll do this.
That's okay. That's okay. I love you guys.
So we have a lot of memories. Him and I go back a long time. Back when my friends, you knew some of my friends, we used to go down there and watch the practices, and then we go into the Heck Center, and then we hang around with these guys. Can't do that anymore, but we would go in his office. He would tell us stuff. We would go in Artie's office, tell us stuff. We'd sit down with Dennis, even with Jimmy at his last year. That's what it used to be. We used to be in the Heck talking to these guys. Now you can't even get into the building. But those were good days, and you had great players.
That's right.
Great players. And you should have won a few more national titles.
It's funny you say that because Mario invited me one time to talk special teams. So he says, "I want you there on time at 7:30." So I got there at 6:30. I couldn't get in the building till like 8. I was like, they were going around doors and looking for people to get in. It's like locked down tight.
Yeah,
when I coached there before, you'd walk in the halls, you'd be stepping over bums. The guys from US1 would be in the building. Anybody could get in.
I don't remember the bumps. I do remember going there on National Signing Day and sitting down, and whether it was Jimmy's or Dennis or with you guys, and watching the faxes come in, because that's how you did it back. The faxes would come in. And we sit there, and you guys had the board and all that stuff. It was fun to do that.
Yeah, it was. It was a lot of fun. I feel very lucky. I was like you guys. I was a fan like you guys before I coached there, and I just feel very fortunate to be around some of the guys I was around. Great coaches, great players, a lot of wins. It was really a lot of fun.
We'll certainly talk throughout this episode on some of the players that Coach Soldinger coached. By the way, legendary University of Miami former running backs coach. He's a UM Sports Hall of Famer, Coach Soldinger. He coached the likes of Edgerrin James, Clinton Portis, Willis McGahee, Frank Gore. And, Coach, I know you keep up with the current team. And the last time we had you on, I think it was before last season, you talked about Jordan Lyle, before he ever even took the field, and he had a really good true freshman season at Miami this year. Mark Fletcher is back for another year. Miami lost Damian Martinez, who I imagine you probably enjoyed watching the second half of last year as we did. But how do you feel about Miami's rushing attack with Jordan Lyle and Mark Fletcher heading up that attack for 2025?
Well, first of all, I'd like to give a lot of credit to Merritt, the coach. I think
Yeah.
Coach Merritt and Coach Hippolyte do a great job with those guys. And Fletcher's just a special kid, really special kid. And Jordan is a throwback. I always said that. He's like an old school guy. He doesn't care about who's there in the room. He says, when I get my turn, I'm going to light it up. And as soon as you give me my opportunity, I'm going to make the most of it. And that's the kind of guy he is. And I sat next to him at an event they were doing honoring the kids in Dayton Broward. And I was able to sit next to him. They honored Walt Frazier and myself, for our high school accomplishments. And just talking with him, I mean, he's a pleasure to talk to. He's a competitive kid, and I think he's going to fit right in with the guys like I coached, to be honest with you. And to Fletcher too, both of them could be excellent. And Merritt's done a great job, so I'm really excited about it.
They got that speed now.
One of the things.
Go ahead.
One of the things, and it's not a criticism; it's just a suggestion. I watched their running game, and because their passing game is so good, and this is for Dawson and all the guys, I would tell them the same thing. The zone, I love the zone runs, the wide zone, and the inside zones and things like that. That's great. But when you start getting blitzed, you get a lot of people in the box. It's hard to stop it. So when you start getting blitzed and you want to keep your running game going, I think you got to do a little bit more with gap schemes, down blocking schemes and things like that, pulling a guard. As people blitz gaps, at least you have a shot at picking those guys up. Where in zone schemes, if you stay on the double teams, you get linebackers running through. And a lot of times you see guys getting stuffed.
Mm-hmm.
And, so that's the only suggestion that I have. That's the only suggestion I have for him. But I think Dawson and that staff do a great job. They're really excellent. So, and they got people to work with. So it's really exciting to me.
It was funny because when Lyle had that run, I forgot who it was against, but he went to the left and he had like a jump, move to the outside, and he turned the corner and nobody can catch him. And the first person I thought of, and maybe Alex too, was you, because you told us how special this kid was going to be. That was a special run. The guy had the angle on him, and he's still right to the end zone.
Right. That's some of the things that you see with that zone scheme. You start one way, people overrun it, you get the cutbacks, the jump cuts, and you can come out the back door pretty good. And he's just an excellent kid. He's really a pleasure to be around. I'll text him every once in a while. I got his number. I talked at that event, and I gave him the speech I had, and I said, I'm going to keep in touch with you. I said, I want to follow your career. And every once in a while I'll text him, when he's doing a great job, made a good read, good blitz pickup or something like that. He's a great kid to be around.
Mm-hmm.
He's an old fashioned guy like we had, like that type of guys we had. So really excited to see what's going to happen.
Well, we got a lot to talk about here with legendary former University of Miami running backs coach Don Soldinger. I want to get coach's take on 10-3, which was such a great start for Miami last year and a rough finish, losing 3 out of the final 4 games on the schedule, and how Miami can hopefully build on that next year. Question I have for Coach on how quickly Carson Beck can integrate with the offense, even though he's going to be missing spring football. So you guys want to keep it locked right here, my friends. We're only getting started on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. I'm only getting started with Game Time. Guys, Game Time is the only ticket app that I use because I'm getting the best prices, including last-minute prices. The closer you get to the event, you're getting the best possible features on the Game Time app, including I'm looking at Super Bowl 59 tickets. You want to plan a last-minute trip out there? Guess what? The prices are going down. We talked a few days ago about prices starting at $3,500. You can now get tickets as low as a little over $3,200 for Super Bowl 59 if you want to catch that in person. Guys, I have bought tickets to hockey games, concerts, comedy shows, football games, of course, all that. I keep losing my towel here. I buy all of these on the Game Time app. And guys, Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks. Does all the work for you. It creates the best deals so you don't have to waste time searching through endless ticket listings. Ready to make your next event even better? Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code Locked On College, all one word, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thank you so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. For your next listen, make sure you check out Locked On ACC. I co-host that show with Kenton Gibbs from Locked On Wolfpack. We take you around the conference, all this ACC news, the ESPN TV deal, exercise through 2036, conference realignment rumors, actual football and basketball. We talk about all of that on Locked On ACC, available free wherever you get your podcasts and available free on YouTube. But Truth Teller and I have the privilege of being joined by Don Soldinger. So, Coach, Miami season started off so promising last year with that just absolute trouncing of the Florida Gators in Gainesville. And, Miami won a lot of games. 10 wins is not easy, but they faded down the stretch. What were your big takeaways, Coach Soldinger, about, how the season ended last year for Miami?
Well, I want to tell you how it began, because, I had the privilege. Mario asked Art Keogh to come in, brought him in 2 weeks before they played Florida. And I just happened to run into Vinny Scavo while I was walking, and Jerry Sullivan. He brought Jerry Sullivan in, who coached at Miami, coached in the league for years, to help Kevin Beard. He was helping out the receivers. And, so anyway, I came in and he invited Art and I to stay for the week. I thought outstanding. The practices were outstanding. And the one guy that came in, and the guy that helped us when I was there, Butch brought him in, was a guy named Kevin Elko. Kevin Elko is a sports psychologist who works in the professional leagues and things like that. And he says, this is the new Miami Hurricanes. You really can't do, everybody talks about what was. They can't, it's hard to, we set the bar fairly high. For people, talking about the 2001, probably maybe the best of all. But seriously, they had the guys, to me, to set their own, make their own way, and make their own, to make their own way, to do what they can do, And this guy said this is the new Miami Hurricanes, and they had player, councils and things like that. I was jacked up. Kevin did a great job and worked with the coaches, worked with the kids. It was just like to me, it was like the old Canes, because Mario was through all that. So Mario went through all that stuff, and right. Lewis did to his brother. So, he's trying to bring that back, but they got to make their own way. They got to make their own reputation. And that's what I thought they were doing at the beginning of the year. Their schedule wasn't super tough, and they were doing a great job, and they're coming, and all of a sudden, you look at it defensively, and they just kind of broke down. There too many explosive plays, and to me, you make adjustments when you're not doing well. That was one of our strong suits. We could make adjustments at halftime and come out and shut people out and do things like that. Adjustments weren't made. The explosive plays kept coming and coming and coming. And I was talking to Alex a little bit before the show, and I was saying, the first thing I learned when I started coaching, you keep everything inside and you keep everything in front. And if you're keeping everything inside of you and everything in front of you in the secondary, you're probably going to win most games. They might bust a play here and there, but you're not going to give up the long, explosive plays. And that's kind of what happened at the end. The Syracuse game was a tough game. Those games at the end were really tough. And I went back and started looking at stuff. The other thing is, another suggestion was the special teams. To me, you got to be super aggressive on your punt return, your kickoff return, things you can score on. We had like 20 or 22 non-offensive touchdowns when I was coaching the special teams.
All right.
We scored on special teams. A lot. And that's what, and you got to be aggressive on it, and that's a suggestion I made, but I think they got players to do that, but they just didn't seem to be doing that. So those were the suggestions that I make. You got to make those adjustments where you're correcting those things. And I was telling Alex, I love landscape. I met the coaches and stuff like that. Dawson's great. Guidry's great. They're young, good, young, sharp guys. They're easy to talk to. And I just can't believe that the adjustments weren't made. To me, you don't fire guys. To me, you make your adjustments and you correct what you're doing wrong. That's what I would do. It's kind of what I did in high school, and it's successful.
Don, let me ask you this question. In all your years there, and since you're not there anymore, but you're still watching, have you ever seen an offense be so diametrically opposed to what the results were on defense? I mean, this was like a fabulous offense, number one, and the defense, the bottom would drop out all the time. I've never seen that at Miami. Have you?
No. I mean, heck, when I was at Miami, when I first got there, if we ran an inside run drill, if we picked up a yard, we were ecstatic. I mean, we got so dominated up front when Jerome Brown, Danny Stubbs, Bill Hawkins, I mean, Greg Mark. I mean, you go one after one. We used to get mauled every day in practice, and then the 2-minute drills, it was tough to even pick up a yard against our defense. Russell, Maryland, there were so many guys on defense, and they could run and they'd strike in our secondary with the Blades and Donnie Ellis and Bubba McDowell. Those guys were unbelievable. No, defense was, to me, somebody said, you think they can win the championship? If they're good defensively, they'll win it. Offensively, you can only do so much. Defensively is where you win the championships, I think.
Well, and the big addition on offense, Coach, if we can go back to that, Miami, of course, is replacing a generational quarterback in Cam Ward, but I thought they did a pretty darn good job finding a replacement in Carson Beck from Georgia, who has all that big game experience, has put up really good numbers, played in the SEC in a dominant program for the last couple of years. But, of course, he is going to miss some time. We don't expect him to fully participate in spring football, so he's going to be playing catch up coming back from that injury. So, Coach, talk a little bit about what it's going to take for Beck to be able to fully integrate himself into Miami's offense in a relatively short period of time before August 31st of this year.
The biggest thing for us, as I go back, to when we were coaching, is that we make sure that our guys were in the summer. We felt after spring, after we got back from recruiting and that summer sessions were starting, we wanted all our players back in the weight room. And when they get in a weight room, that's where you really develop, the fortitude to go through the season. I mean, you're busting your butt, really working hard, getting yourself in shape. So when you report in August, you're in shape. But our kids would go out after they finished the workouts on their own without coaches. They'd have the scripts that we wanted to run, because you got to hone up the passing game with your kids in the summer. And if he's back by the summer, I think that it would really be beneficial to really get it, because it's hard to do that timing during the year. Your timing comes. So our kids threw all summer, and when we hit fall practice, they were right on if they're running a 14-yard out, you could almost blindfold the quarterbacks. They'd hit it right on the money. So those were the things that made us, I think, really, because our kids love playing the game and they worked hard during the summer. And that's where he's going to have to come. Hopefully he'll be back. And because he is an elite quarterback, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the country, I mean, he's right there with that whole group of guys. You can name 3 or 4 guys, or 5 guys. He's probably in that top 5.
Yeah. Coach, let me ask you about the Canes getting Beck. What do you think, with the money they gave him or allegedly gave him, that they would have done some sort of medical checks to make sure that they believe what the doctors did for him is the right course of action, and they're pretty sure he's going to be okay within a certain parameter of time, which is way before fall practice?
If you're going to drop that kind of money on a guy,
yeah, you better check it.
You better
have a lot of confidence.
I think they did.
In the doctors, I'll tell you.
Well, I'm sure they did, but I just, I think, I would think that they're pretty sure he's coming back.
Hey, Bruce, he's making more in one season than I made in 16 seasons there. So,
Oh man,
I'd come back for that. I'll go to the doctor and I'll come back. You can check my 80-year-old butt out, and I think I can coach another season for that kind of money.
I'm sure you could.
No, he's got it. I'm sure they checked it. I'm sure they checked it out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy what's going on. I tell you that.
Yeah, it's crazy. These high school kids are sticking their hands out for more money, and I think that happened a month or so ago, right, Alex? With somebody that wanted more money, and Mario said, "Get out of here," and he left.
yeah.
You can't be having
one of those guys in the
have all
recruiting
this leverage.
cycle.
Well, the
Terrible.
kid. How about the kid at Florida that's suing Florida? And he's been like 4 different schools already.
Yeah.
Rashad, I think. George.
Yeah.
I mean, he's
Shane
been all
Rashada.
over. He's at Georgia now. He might have left Georgia or something. I don't know. It's kind of screwy, one of the reasons we were really good, there was a tremendous amount of loyalty. Coaches to coaches, players to players, coaches and players together. I mean, we cared about each other. It's hard to develop that kind of relationship in 1 year. You're coming to a program that has a reputation. You got to build your own reputation, and it's hard to do that in 1 year. It's very, very difficult. That's the key. If you're going to be successful, you got to instill that in the kids to be able to build their own reputation, their own a name for themselves. Do that in 1 year. You got to really, really be doing the right things, and the kids got to have the right kind of mental framework, because it's hard to develop that in 1 year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I also think that this NIL, to a certain extent, negates Mario's talent to recruit, because somebody could come in here with a few dollars more, and the kid's not coming to Miami. Like you said, the loyalty. Plus, you also had Jimmy and to a certain extent Dennis, but Jimmy would recruit these kids. They're at the school, and they say, "All right, we're going to go someplace else and visit." And he would say, "If you're going to leave and not sign or commit, get it. Don't come back. We're not taking you." And he did that to a lot of the former. I know he did it to Hambone and a few others, and they said, "I'm staying."
No, that's the way I recruited. Yeah, I walked into a house. I didn't say, "Oh, I'm saying, hey, you want to come to a great program? You want to come where there's competition? You'll find out how good you are if you come to Miami, because we have players, and we think you're good enough to fit in, but you're gonna have to work hard." You're telling the truth, and that's the way it was. And we wind up getting players. They might all those players might not have been on lists, but they wound up turning out pretty good. They were very competitive. They wanted to be there, very loyal to the program, and had a vision to go to the next level. And it's easy to coach guys that want to be on the next level. Very easy. Because
that's how you got Lamar, because you went up and stole him from the Gator territory, right? That's how you got Lamar, and Lamar came down.
I went up. I got Portis too. Portis is from Gainesville.
Right, that's right.
Clinton, I recruited Clinton out of Gainesville. Portis out of Gainesville. I went up into Madison, up into Madison, not Madison County, but up around the Lake City area, and got Kelly Jennings, who was a number 1 round draft choice. And I recruited, and his cousin came, Bruce Johnson. I mean, we went up there, and these guys were all competitive. They all wanted to be, and they all, and they weren't paid. They were told the truth. They're told they're going to have to work hard and bust their ass, and they wanted to be there. Everything was laid out to them. Nothing was sugarcoated. It was told you're going to have to bust your butt to play at this place. But if you do, you're probably going to go to the next level. Kelly Jennings, the 1st round draft choice, Portis 2nd round. They all wound up doing pretty damn good.
Some incredible players that Coach Soldinger coached. And when we come back, we're going to find out who was the best running back that Sports Hall of Famer Don Soldinger had the privilege of coaching at the U. You want to keep it locked right here. We're not done yet on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. Thank you for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. Alex Dono, the truth teller, Bruce Warner, joined by Sports Hall of Famer Don Soldinger. So, Coach, you're right in. I mean, in one running back room in 2001, you had some future NFL legends in there. You coached so many of the greats over the years, Edgerrin James going back into the 90s. You had the Clinton Portises, the Najee Davenport, Willis McGahee, Frank Gore. The list goes on and on and on. Like, can you even single out, Don? Because one of our listeners on Facebook was asking, he wanted us to ask you, who's the best running back you ever coached?
A lot of people ask me that, and it's so hard, to preface the thing. Every guy had something a little different that they were really good at, that they might have even been better at than one of the other players. But if you go overall, you talk about the running game, you talk about pass protection, you talk passes and doing the extras and working hard and not making mistakes, not making mental errors and things like that. Probably the best guy, I would have to say, would be Edgerrin James. I mean, he was a special cat. I mean, he always has been in everything he goes about doing, whether it's business, whether it's athletics or whatever it is, he does it 100% and does it the right way. He has a great feel for it. But to preface that, a guy like Frank Gore, who's probably going to be a first-round nominee for the Hall of Fame, I mean, he's third leading rusher all time. If Frankie was healthy, he was so natural. He's probably the most natural guy I coached as far as his reads in the running game. And whatever he did, I tell a story about Frankie real quick. The first day of practice, I gave him the playbooks. We had a ton of different pass protection. We had about 16 different pass protections. And the young kids coming in had to learn that to play. And I said, Frankie, you got to learn those pass protections. I said, you can play in the running game, you'll be fine. I said, but you got to to play regularly, you got to learn the pass protections. That night, the first day of practice, the days, he calls me up at 2:30 in the morning. He says, Coach. I said, what's up? Are you okay? The phone rang. Phyllis woke up. I woke up. He says, yeah. He says, I just learned all the pass protections. You want to quiz me on them now? I said, I don't think so. I'll see you tomorrow. And I hung up the phone. But that's the way Frank was, Frankie wanted to play. He wanted to be the guy. So I say sometimes that, if he was healthy, he might have been the best. But, he just wasn't healthy. Take a look at McGahee. He could, walk into a weight room and carry every weight out on his shoulder. He was strong. He was super fast. A little bit harder to coach on the guys. He's a little bit alpha. You had to stay on him pretty good. But once he got it, man, he had the greatest season of any back there. So he was excellent. Speed-wise, everything. He was good. Davenport would have been unbelievable, but we wound up moving him to fullback. Wasn't happy about it, but did it for the team, and we really appreciate it. And he wound up 6 years in the league, and I think he won a Super Bowl. He wound up with the Super Bowl. So, I wanted to make sure they could all go to the next level. Portis, most confident guy I coached. I mean, I'll never forget in the Washington game. He said, "Come on, Coach, put me in. We'll win the game." And we almost won it. We ran out of time. He was that type of guy. I'll win the game for you. Put me in. That's the way he felt. That was as a freshman. He was that way.
Right.
And of course, wound up the national championship. He was the back that was on the national championship team. He was the first guy, come out of the chute. But I always used more than one back because I wanted to make sure they all could play. They all had great skills, and I thought they all could play on the next level. So I didn't want to just go with one back. I wanted to go with a hot hand. You know what I mean? If one guy got in the game, I'll never forget the Georgia Tech game. James Jackson was in, and James Jackson was tired and was moving around, and so I pulled him out. And Butch comes around, what's Portis doing in the game? I said, Jackson's not running hard, and I wanted to give, Portis is fresh. He'll be fine. All right, you pull him out of the game. I said, okay, Coach, I'll take him out. Right after this play, boom, 78 yards, Gator Bowl record. You scored a touchdown. And I pulled him out of the game. But that's the type of guys that it was,
Did you say anything to Butch?
That they thought they were.
Donnie, did you say anything to Butch?
I joke around with Butch about it. No. Butch don't. My thing. Butch doesn't get enough credit for bringing that school back. Butch brought the school back to prominence. You think about it. I mean, Butch doesn't get enough credit. Matter of fact, I just texted him. Butch asked how I was doing. I had a little medical issue. I'm fine now, but he texted me and I said, you know what, man? I said, you don't get enough credit for what you did at Miami. He was a great recruiter like Mario, and he brought the place back. He really did. So I just felt very fortunate to be around guys like that. I just wanted to contribute and make sure I was doing the right thing to win games. Because if you don't win them all at Miami, it's a problem. You see that this year, this last year.
So I'm going to ask you a favor, since you were a friend of the show. See if you can ask Butch if he'll come on with us. I don't have his number, otherwise I'd do it.
I think Butch would. I think his son's coaching at St. Thomas, and his son is a fabulous kid, man. Really good coach, good recruiter, and St. Thomas had a pretty good year this year. And Butch goes out a little bit, I think, and does I don't know if he's consulting, but he's out there with Drew a little bit, and I'm going to try to get a hold of him. I'll try to get a hold of him and see if he'll come on with you, because he's a special guy, Butch.
He is. Yeah. He was a special guy.
We love Butch.
He was under a lot of heat after they got in trouble, and he took over a program with like nothing, and look what he did. Look what he did.
Else, man. He has great vision. It really does. That he doesn't get enough credit. I told him that. I just wrote him a text like a week ago. I said he just doesn't get enough credit. He was really special.
One of the things that people complain about before we go is that they're complaining about the players not developing. Well, that was not Butch's problem, because they developed under him.
You were breaking up. I didn't hear the whole thing.
I said one of the things that people complain about on our show is that the lack of player development. Well, that wasn't the case under Butch. They developed. He was great at that.
No. Jimmy was too. I mean, you develop. You can see it week to week. I mean, if you're making mistakes, you don't. To me, I ain't firing a guy. I had guy. I'll never forget in high school, my defensive coordinator came to me. I had a guy coaching defensive ends, and the guy was a class guy, class individual. The ends weren't doing what they're supposed to do. And he comes to me and says, I want that guy fired. I said, I ain't firing him. I said, either get him to do it the right way or I'll bring him over to offense. That guy's a valuable asset to this program. So I brought him over to offense, did a great job with me, got him another guy to coach defensive ends, and we just kept winning at Southridge. But the point being is you try to work with guys. Every guy has some kind of value to the program. And as long as you have a value and you're helping out the program, you don't get rid of guys. See, I think Lance Guidry, you can't tell me you can't sit down with Lance Guidry and say, hey, let's make these adjustments. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the guys take a look at his record. Take a look at Guidry's record. I mean, he was a hell of a coach. He's a hell of a guy, got a great personality, has a great demeanor with the kids. Man.
But you said adjustments or lack thereof, and that's a problem. Right?
Well,
you said before lack of adjustments.
That's
an issue.
That's me talking.
Okay, but I agree.
Yeah, that's me talking. I mean, I don't know if it's right or not, but I mean, I looked at the guy. I mean, I was sitting in meetings with him. The guy's easy to talk to. Mm-hmm. Like if I was working for Guidry and my guys weren't performing, I would expect him to come to me and say, "Hey, let's get this done. I don't want guys getting outside. Let's keep everything contained. Let's keep everything inside. I'm going to get the job done." Now, after you make those suggestions, you don't do it, then you're gone. Get somebody else. But let's make the corrections and let's get it done. You see it the next week, you'll see it. I guarantee you. Every week you're looking at film, you'll see if the corrections were made or not. You see what you're coaching on the field. You know what I'm saying? Every week you look, and what you see on the field is what you're coaching. So if it's not working, make the adjustments. That's the way I look at it. I don't know. I might be wrong, because I'm a little bit old school, but I think every guy has a value to that program. And if you have a value to the program, you got to bring it out, and help out. And that's how you win big time, I think.
Nothing wrong with old school.
Nothing wrong with that, and we love the insight. We love. I mean, this was heck of a conversation. I think there's a reason why we want to bring Coach Soldinger back on even more often. It had been too long. Coach, thank you so much for taking the time with us, and enjoy the rest of that beautiful trip that you're on there at Hilton Head. I'm envious.
I'm struggling a little bit, but I'm going to see what I can do. I think I enjoy it. I'll enjoy it. My wife and they took off. They left me. They're walking now, but I'm going to go catch them.
Well, go join them, Coach. Go.
They're not walking. They're shopping.
Yeah,
probably. Hey, thanks for having me on. I love you guys. Anytime you call, I'm with you guys. You know that. So
right,
thanks for calling me, Bruce. And if you ever need
welcome.
me, I'll try to get a hold of Butch, see what he says.
All right, great. That's great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Love it.
Thanks.
Enjoy
so much,
and be
guys.
safe,
Much,
buddy.
Coach. Huge shout out to Coach
care.
Don
Bye.
Soldinger, to Bruce Warner, the truth teller. I am Alex Dono. We'll talk to everyone again on another episode of Locked On Canes. We are part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Take it.